I'm Executive Councilor Andrew Valinsky. I represent District 2, which includes the Concord area. With me is my friend and colleague, Russ Prescott from District 3. Councilor Pappas is in Washington being oriented as a new incoming congressman, so he won't be here tonight. I'm the chair of this committee. This hearing is concerned with the proposed alterations to I-93 and I-89 in the town of Bow in the city of Concord and I-393 in the city of Concord to improve traffic operations and safety. It is pursuant to RSA 230:45 and the Surface Transportation and Uniform Relocation Assistance Act of 1987. The purpose of this hearing is to determine the necessity of the occasion of the layout and to hear evidence of the economic and social effects of such a location, its impact on the environment, and its consistency with the goals and objectives of such local planning as has been undertaken by the towns and cities. Following the hearing, this committee will evaluate all matters brought to our attention and make definite decisions relative to the layout. A representative from DOT will contact each owner whose property is affected and discuss individual concerns. It is therefore important that all individuals desiring to make requests or suggestions do so tonight. I would remind you that you have 30 days from the date of this hearing to submit any other material you would like considered by this committee. At this time, I will ask Don Lyford, who's the project manager of the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, to present in a formal manner the layout which he has proposed. After this, I'll open the floor to those who wish to address the committee, particularly those who filled out the green cards. I will request that all desiring to speak signify their desire, and upon recognition, step to the microphone, state their name and address, and make their statements. Please also print your name and address on the sign-in sheet that you passed as you entered tonight. This hearing is being recorded, and a transcript will later be prepared. Mr. Lyford will now present the layout.
Thank you, Chairman. Council President. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll first introduce people who will be helping with tonight's presentation. On my far right at the end of the table is Gene McCarthy. He's a project manager with consulting firm of McFarland Johnson. And he's been involved with this project for quite some time. He's going to be describing the details of the proposed project. Next to me on my right is Jennifer Zorn. She's a senior planner with McFarland Johnson, and she'll be going over the environmental aspects of the project. And then on the far left end of the table is Steve Labonte. He's with our right-of-way bureau, and he will be going over the right-of-way aspects of the project. As a result of prior public meetings and meetings with boards and committees involved in Concord, we received a lot of good input that helped us formulate this layout that we have tonight. So we're certainly interested in any additional input or comments that people might have. And at this time, I'll ask Gene to explain.
Thanks, Don. So I'm going to read a few opening statements, and then I'll get up and kind of present the project. So Interstate 93 is one of the principal north-south arterial highways in the state of New Hampshire. It runs a total of 132 miles through New Hampshire from the Mass border all the way through to the Vermont border. The limits of this project are from just south of Interstate 89 in Bow to just north of Interstate 393 in Concord at exit 15. It's a distance of about 4.5 miles on Interstate 93. There are also short segments of 89 and 393 as they connect to 93. It's important to note that the portion of 93 through to exit 14 is also part of the New Hampshire Turnpike system, It is known as the Central Turnpike, which is more commonly known as the F.E. Everett Turnpike. So the portion of the 93 that is part of this public hearing was constructed mainly in the 1950s and 1960s, and the desire to address issues on this section of I-93 were identified as early as 1990. So this project has followed a three-part process. Part A constituted a planning study. This had extensive public outreach, whereby the project goals were established, a range of reasonable alternatives were developed, and it was also determined at that time that the appropriate level of environmental document is what we call an environmental assessment. Before the project continued into Part B, several red list bridges on the corridor were addressed. Now, red list bridges are those that have elements that need attention. And a total of 4 bridges were addressed between 2008 and 2016. They included the 93 over Loudon Road at exit 14, the bridges that carry I-93 over 89 in Bow, those are 2 bridges, and the Route 3A over 93 at exit 12. So the project is currently in Part B. This is the scoping portion. And at this stage, we select a preferred alternative, and we complete an environmental document, and it culminates in the public hearing that we are here today to attend. So once this process, the public process has begun, has been completed, then we can go into Part C, the final design portion of the project. I want to present the official project purpose of the project. I'm actually going to read it. The purpose of the Interstate 93 Bow-Concord project is to address the existing and future transportation needs for all users of this 4.5-mile segment of Interstate 93, while balancing the needs of the surrounding communities by providing a safe and efficient transportation corridor for people, goods, and services. So I want to get into the actual proposed project now. So with respect for the need of the project, traffic volumes on this segment of Interstate 93 have tripled since the project was constructed. More recently, after a period of modest growth, traffic volumes have increased about 10% between 2012 and 2017, resulting in frequent congestion. Traffic volumes are expected to continue to increase by about 16% by the year 2035. To accommodate this increase in traffic demand, the project proposes to add 1 lane in each direction of Interstate 93 and would result in a basic 6-lane interstate all the way through exit 15 in Concord. In addition, the project also proposes auxiliary lanes in each direction between all of the exits, with the exception of northbound between exits 14 and 15, which I'll describe in detail later. This slide depicts the existing footprint or the typical section of 93 with 2 lanes in each direction, and below is what is being proposed by the project, which is basically 3 lanes in each direction throughout the corridor, and these auxiliary lanes in most of the segments between the exits. Now, the primary challenge with this project is the number and the spacing of the interchanges. So the project includes a total of 7 full access interchanges, including 2 system interchanges, and these are interchanges that connect 2 interstates. The interchanges are close together, and this creates operational issues on the corridor. So to evaluate these interchanges, we separated the project into 4 areas. From the south, we have the Interstate 89 area, which is mostly in Bow, and it includes exit 1 on 89, and it includes the 93-89 interchange. We then have the exit 12 area, which is exit 12 in a segment of 93. We have exit 13 area, and then in the north, all in Concord, is the exit 14, 15 area, which also includes exit 1 on 393. Now, as I present the proposed improvements, I will mention these items listed. The red list bridges, which I stated those are the bridges that need attention. They're not the only bridges, but they're the ones that will certainly have a high priority. Talk about the geometric issues, which are really those things that don't meet current highway standards. We'll also mention the access that is provided in each of the interchanges, the pedestrian and bicycle accommodations that are provided, the proposed stormwater treatment that we'll need to have, and also the property impacts. So the geometric issues are those things, as I said, that are really more design standards. Operational issues are those things that really deal with the cars that are moving along the interstate. Now, it should be noted as you look at these interchanges that we have several goals as we develop these alternatives. We wanted to improve, obviously, the safety and operations of the whole corridor. We were attempting to retain all of the access that presently exists. We try to minimize property impacts, minimize impacts to neighborhoods and businesses, as well as minimizing impacts to natural and cultural resources. Okay, so that sort of finishes my formal presentation. So I'm going to get up now. I'm going to play with my mic here. So this works. Is that working? No? Can you hear it? Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello? Yep. There we go. Is that working for everyone? All right. Good. I can be a little freer now. She can turn it up more. Is that loud enough for everyone? No. All right. All right. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to start at the south end of the project. Just move to. I'm going to show you what the existing conditions are, show you what's being proposed, and all the other elements for each area. So this is just to orient everyone. North is up. So you see Interstate 93 running through here. Right now, Interstate 93 is actually a 7-lane section as you move south. So we'll be widening from where that ends to the north. This segment includes the 93-89 interchange and exit 1 on 89. So what we're dealing with currently, we do have one red list bridge. The bridge carrying Interstate 89 over South Street is on the red list. That bridge will be replaced as part of this project. We have 3 what we call weaving issues, and I think anybody who drives this segment knows what I'm talking about. This is where you're getting on an on-ramp and someone's trying to get off at the next off-ramp, and you have this crossing of traffic. So that is an operational issue. We have 3 of those areas in this particular location. The 2 weaves that are between exit 1 and the connection to 93 for southbound 89 and northbound 89. There's also a weaving segment on the existing, what is called a collector distributor road here. It's between these 2 loop ramps. A lot of traffic on that loop, especially in the morning. So this is what's being proposed. So for exit 1, still providing full access. All the ramps that are there now, and the access that is provided to 89 and 93 is being retained. But what we're doing is we're separating the connections from the 89 traffic and the exit 1 traffic to avoid these weaving segments. So the one that most people talk about is the southbound 89, where that weave happens in here right now. We are taking all the traffic that's heading for 93 and exit 1 off on a new collector road that would parallel 89 here. And then if you wanted to continue to 93 south, you just continue and you would merge down the way you do today. But you would be getting off back here. There'd be a separate ramp that would connect exit 1 to Logging Hill in the way you do today. To get on at this location, the ramp would actually pass underneath this connection and would then merge with 93 up here on its own separate road. If you were getting on at exit 1, you would still have the opportunity to get on southbound 93 and merge with that traffic that you're now weaving with. You'd be merging with much further down on much more equal terms. And you could also still continue on 89 and use this loop ramp to go northbound on 93. So all that access is still provided, but no more of that conflict with that 89 traffic. For the northbound 89 we are also grade separating the connection from 93 southbound to 89 northbound. We're having a new bridge here. There's another collector road along this area, and we're providing a new connector that would be from the current intersection on South Street that would go, this would be a local traffic going through here, connecting to Bow Junction. So that weave that exists here today would be eliminated. For the other weave, we're proposing a new ramp that would take the northbound Interstate 93 traffic that's heading to northbound 89 off back here, and that traffic would head to 89 this direction. So much of the traffic that is in this, on this collector road in this weaving section here would be removed. One of the things that happens as a result of this new ramp and the new connection between Bow Junction 3A and South Street is the existing direct connection that people can use now going from 89 that you go right through to Bow Junction. That would no longer exist. If you were on 3A and you wanted to get to 89, you would still use this intersection, but when you headed to the northbound direction, you would use this local connector through the intersection on South Street, use the ramp, and go north on 89. Conversely, if you were coming down 89 and you wanted to get to 3A, you have a couple different options. You could come down on exit 1 to Logging Hill, use Logging Hill under 89, use the new connector road to get to Bow Junction. You could actually stay on 89 and use the two loop ramps here, and then access Bow Junction. This existing ramp, loop ramp, would actually be converted, and instead of it just being a loop, we would create a new intersection with the connector road that would also bring access to Bow Junction from northbound 93. There is an existing trail that's at the end of Valley Street that goes around the interchange, goes through a couple of tunnels, that gets access to Bow Junction. That trail would be eliminated, and it would be replicated by providing sidewalks, a sidewalk on the new connector road, and bike lanes in each direction on this new connector road. I'm going to talk about the stormwater treatment areas. These areas here that you see that are kind of in this maroon hatched area, these are stormwater treatment areas that we have to provide to treat water, stormwater that's coming off the pavement before it is discharged into a water body. So as part of the project, as I go through all the slides, you will see multiple locations. On this one slide, there's one there, there's another one there, there's one there, there's one there, one there. We're showing more than we will ultimately need. We want to to give ourselves flexibility as we move into final design to ensure that we can meet the requirements for the stormwater. And we wanted to show them on these plans today. Now, in terms of property impacts, there are several parcels that would require full acquisitions. The new connector road in this area goes right through the parcel where the mobile currently exists. There's a parcel right here along Valley Street. There's a home and there's a business, I think it's Dick's Auto. That parcel would have a full acquisition. There's a vacant parcel at the end of Valley Street. It's also a full acquisition. And right now, this parcel is within the ramp. We're also showing as a potential full acquisition just because we're actually hitting it on two different sides. There are various partial acquisitions that were required that just from widening and certainly from some of the stormwater treatment areas. So that is the 89 area. So we move to exit 12. This will go. Come on. Well, hopefully this will keep. All right. So this is the existing of exit 12. So exit 12, within this segment there are no red list bridges. We are showing one on the graphic just because it shows up better on this image. The southbound Interstate 93 bridge over Hall Street is currently on the red list, and that would be replaced as part of the project. So there we go. There are some geometric issues with this. The existing interchange is what we call a partial cloverleaf. In each direction, there are 2 exit ramps. And each of these ramps does not meet deceleration criteria. And if anyone's trying to get off there, you know you really got to hit the brakes as you approach those loops. So those are the issues that we're dealing with. So the proposed, oops, too fast. Whoa. Okay, now it's catching up to me. Come on. All right. So the proposal is to retain the partial cloverleaf interchange, but to eliminate 2 of the ramps, the exit ramps. So this exit ramp and this exit ramp would be removed. All exiting traffic would use these loops to a single intersection with 3A. This proposal is to build hybrid roundabouts at each of these ramp junctions to handle the traffic going through there. All of the access that is currently provided by or at exit 12 is retained by this concept. There is a sidewalk that will be provided to replicate what's out there today. There are some bike lanes, but we're not providing special bike lanes through the roundabout. So there are a few stormwater treatment areas shown. We try to, in these cases, try to use existing areas within loops and so forth. There is one down here shown that would impact a privately owned commercial property. So there are no full acquisitions within this area. So move on to exit 13. So this is the exit 13 area. As I said, there is one red list bridge that is part of this, which is the Hall Street, is actually just off the map here. This interchange was rebuilt. It was completed about 2002. Most of what is in this area today will be retained. The bridge, all those nice retaining walls, the landscaping, that will all be retained by this project. Fortunately, that project envisioned a wider 93, so the median was laid out to accommodate the additional lanes that we're proposing. One issue that is on this interchange currently is in the northbound direction for the exit ramp. This ramp on a daily basis, the queue backs up onto Interstate 93, and I see a lot of people shaking their heads. I see this most days. Definitely something that we don't want, so that's something that we want to address. So, Jesus, we didn't like me anymore. So, within the exit 13 area, most of the widening is in the median of the interstate. So as you can see, that we're really not planning to do much. As you get to the ends, there is some widening and some tie-in on the ramps. Obviously, the one exception is the northbound exit ramp. We're proposing to widen that ramp to provide 2 right turn lanes onto Manchester Street. Currently, there's one lane, and it's stop controlled. The stop control is because of the sight distance as you look back underneath the bridge. We want to put that under signal control so that we can really provide much more capacity for those cars making that right turn. What's shown in red here is a City of Concord project that will also look to improve the Manchester Street Old Turnpike Road intersection, and we'll want to just show that as well. So this maintains all the current access. There's sidewalks along Manchester Street that are being retained. There is a trail that starts at the end of Basin Street here. We will accommodate that, so there will be a connection from that trail up to Manchester Street as there is presently, and also a connection underneath that accesses Healy Park as well. So all of those pedestrian bicycle connections will be retained. Again, we do have stormwater treatment. We're showing one right here on Basin Street. This is in several industrial parcels that would be full acquisitions to build that treatment area at that location. There is one property impact. It's at the end of Basin Street in this area. That's needed to widen the ramp. That is a parcel owned by the City of Concord. And there are a few partial impacts as well. Okay, so the last segment is the exit 14, 15 area. I blew this up to show you exit 14, exit 15, and exit 1. You can see how if I can fit 3 interchanges in one slide, they're pretty close together. So the issues that we have here, we have 4 red listed bridges in this one slide. So we have, this is Route 202 over Constitution Avenue and the railroad. This is the Interstate 393 over Interstate 93 bridge. And we have the Interstate 393 over College Park Drive. And then this is Delta Drive over Interstate 93. Those are all red listed bridges. Most of them would be replaced. There is a chance that there might be some rehabilitation that's possible for the bridge on Interstate 93. Now, because these interchanges are so close together, we have this weaving issue again. Not a big shock to anyone here. Between 14 and 15 in this area, a lot of traffic, a lot of weaving. Between exit 15 and exit 1, not as much traffic, but it is a very short segment. And then within exit 15, because of this cloverleaf configuration, there are 4 weaving segments, 2 on 93 and 2 on Interstate 393. So that's a total of 8 weaving segments in this one area. The other thing to point out in this area is we call this the pinch point. And I think everybody can know where that is. In this one location here, between the river, the interstate, there's a utility corridor, there's the rail corridor, and then the shopping center are all very closely connected. And that's an issue that it's a challenge when we lay this out. So, for the proposed, we're going to talk mainly about exits 14 and 15. Exit 14, we retain the current diamond interchange configuration, with the main exception being that we've eliminated the northbound entrance ramp. By eliminating that ramp, it allows us to shift the interstate to the east, and then we avoid impacting Stickney Avenue, which means we can keep that intersection of Stickney and Loudon Road. We avoid hitting these two historic properties. We avoid the electrical substation and the railroad corridor. So all of those things are avoided by shifting the interstate in that direction. So obviously when you eliminate a ramp, you want to look at what are the implications. That ramp accommodates traffic from both downtown Concord and from the Loudon Road, Fort Eddy Road area. To mitigate some of that, one of the things that's also proposed is to extend Stickney Avenue to the north and connect it to the intersection of Commercial and Constitution at this location. That'll allow, now when you combine that with the other project that the City of Concord is proposing, which is to extend Store Street from where it right now turns here and goes up to North Main Street, it would continue to the north and it would hook up with Commercial and Constitution at this location. With those proposed connections, a lot of traffic that would normally use this entrance ramp at 14 could now use this intersection to gain access to exit 15 and get access to both north and southbound 93. Traffic from this side would obviously use Fort Eddy Road to go down to exit 1 or East Side Drive to go to 93 on exit 2. Exit 15, we're proposing to convert the existing full clover leaf to what is called a clover stack configuration. The clover stack functions very much like the clover leaf, except that it replaces two of the loop ramps with direct connections. So there's that one loop ramp is replaced by that ramp, and the other one is replaced by that ramp. That one change eliminates 4 of those weaving sections that we talked about. So all that weaving within exit 15 is eliminated. The elimination of that northbound entrance ramp from 14 also eliminates that weave. For the southbound traffic, because of the configuration at 15 and 14, we are proposing another collector-distributor road. So if you wanted to get off at either of exit 14 or 15, you get off back here, you follow this road through here. This is a collector road all the way through here that would then reconnect with 93 down here. So that southbound weave between exit 14 and 15, it's still there, but we've placed it on a collector-distributor road, which has a much slower speed and it can handle that traffic more easily. So, the exit 1, which is just off of here, we're not planning to change exit 1. We're just going to, with the reconfiguration of 15, sort of redefine those auxiliary lanes between those, and they function quite well. So, from a pedestrian bicycle combination along Loudon Road, we're actually proposing separate multi-use paths in both directions. They would be separate from Loudon Road. We'd have a grass panel and then a 10-foot path in both directions to make that a much more pleasant experience going underneath Loudon Road. Then obviously, as you can see, there are multiple locations that we are showing the stormwater treatment. There's a site right here. There's a site within the interchange there. We're also looking at a site on the Technical Institute's property. From a property perspective, there was one full acquisition. This is a little residential street right here called Hebert. At the very end of that street, there's a house that would be impacted with the extension of Stickney as proposed here. There are obviously quite a few partial acquisitions as part of this as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Dawn. Bring that slide. Oh, I'll go right back to here. This is the slide that's up here. This is sort of showing the whole project put together, the preferred alternative when it's all said and done. Thank you.
part of this project, evaluation of the environmental impacts must be conducted, and I'll have Jennifer Zorn describe those. That summary at this time.
Thank you, Don. Good evening, members of the special committee, ladies and gentlemen. My role in this hearing is to provide a summary of the key environmental information contained in the environmental document. Pursuant to the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, which is also commonly referred to as NEPA, the New Hampshire Department of Transportation has evaluated alternatives to the proposed project and the potential impacts this project will have upon social, economic, and natural environments. Coordination has been conducted and input has been received from federal and state agencies, including the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department, the New Hampshire Office of Strategic Initiatives, the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources, and the New Hampshire Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. In addition, coordination was conducted and input was received from the Town of Bow, the City of Concord, regional planning agencies and officials, as well as concerned citizens. After review of the information gathered, an environmental assessment was prepared. Included in this environmental assessment is also a draft Section 4F evaluation. The Section 4F evaluation is required by the Department of Transportation Act of 1968 and is an evaluation of proposed project use on certain types of properties in the project area, including historic properties, publicly owned parks, recreation areas, and wildlife or waterfowl refuges that are of national, state, or local significance. So the following is a brief summary of the information contained in the environmental assessment. 1. The proposed project is not expected to result in air quality impacts. Noise impacts have been identified throughout the project corridor. Noise abatement measures have been evaluated in accordance with the department's noise policy. 19 locations were evaluated in the project corridor that resulted in the finding that one noise barrier was both feasible and reasonable. This noise barrier is shown on the project plans between Interstate 93 and a portion of the New Hampshire Technical Institute campus. Temporary increases in noise and dust levels are anticipated to occur during construction, but these temporary increases are expected to return to normal after construction. 2. Construction of the proposed project will require property acquisitions. The full acquisitions of 11 parcels and partial acquisitions of approximately 70 other properties would be needed for the project. 3. One conservation property will have impacts. The conservation property is the Scilly State Forest, owned by the state of New Hampshire. Impacts to this forest are approximately 7/10 of 1 acre. Compensation for the impact has been proposed as an exchange of land. Adjacent land to the impacted area of the forest, owned by the department, is proposed as the exchange. This land is of equivalent size and equivalent ecological value to the area of impacted conservation land. 4. The proposed project will require dredge and fill activities within wetland areas totaling up to 3.2 acres. The department has been and will continue to coordinate with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Wetlands Bureau and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to ensure that all wetland impacts are minimized to the maximum extent practicable. 5. Numerous water bodies, including the Turkey River, the Merrimack River, and Doe Brook, are located in the project area. In order to protect water quality, the department will incorporate appropriate stormwater treatment measures into the design of the project. Stormwater treatment areas are proposed and shown on the project plans. The contractor will also be required to prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan prior to the start of construction to ensure water quality is protected during construction. 6. Floodplains and floodways have been identified in the project area. The proposed project will require impacts within floodplains and floodways. The department will coordinate with the New Hampshire Office of Strategic Initiatives, and during final design, impacts to the floodplains and floodways will be avoided, minimized, and mitigated if necessary. 7. The project area has been evaluated and reviewed by the department, the Federal Highway Administration, and the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources for the presence of cultural resources. For this review, it was determined the project would result in adverse effects to 2 properties located in Bow that are both eligible for the National Register of Historic Places under the jurisdiction of Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. These adversely affected properties are the Upton House and Store, located at 2 Valley Road, which will be adversely affected by the change in the property's historic setting, and Lamora's Garage, located at the addresses of 521 South Street and 1 Valley Road, which will be adversely affected due to its acquisition and conversion to a transportation use. During final design, impacts to these properties will be minimized to the maximum extent practicable, and mitigation is intended for these adverse effects. 5 additional properties located in Concord that are eligible for the National Register will be subject to partial acquisitions, but will not be adversely affected by the project. In addition, the project corridor contains lands that have been identified as archaeologically sensitive. Further archaeological study will be conducted during final design. The department will coordinate with the New Hampshire Department of Historical Resources and the Federal Highway Administration to adapt the final design to protect and avoid or minimize impacts to any archaeologically sensitive lands. 8. The evaluation of properties under the jurisdiction of Section 4F of the Transportation Act indicates that the project would result in adverse effects to 2 historic properties, the Upton House and Store and Lamora's Garage. 5 additional properties under the jurisdiction of Section 4F will be impacted but not adversely affected. 9. Based on the results of an acoustic survey, the northern long-eared bat, a federally listed threatened species, is considered absent from the project area. Therefore, the project would result in a finding of may affect but not likely to adversely affect the northern long-eared bat. The project is not anticipated to result in adverse effects to any federally listed threatened or endangered species, species of concern, or exemplary communities. State-listed species are present in the project area. During final design, the department will coordinate with the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department to reduce and minimize any effects to state-listed species. 10. The Merrimack River, the Turkey River, and Bow Brook are essential fish habitat for Atlantic salmon. The department will coordinate with the National Marine Fisheries Service and will adopt conservation measures to reduce any adverse effect on essential fish habitat in the project. 11. There will be no environmental justice impacts, as no minority or low-income populations are differentially impacted by the project. 12. Visual impacts resulting from the proposed project would largely be limited to the highway profile elevation changes, especially at the Interstate 89, Interstate 93 interchange in Bow, and the noise barrier that is proposed along the New Hampshire Technical Institute campus in Concord. The reduction of the natural vegetation buffer located between the highway and adjacent development would also have some negative effect on aesthetics. And lastly, 13. There are numerous sites within the project corridor that are known to contain contamination, as well as those that may contain contamination at the surface, in the subsurface, and in the groundwater. These sites and the corridor overall will require further study during final design. The environmental assessment and draft section 4F evaluation was made available for public review and comment on October 29th, 2018. The public comment period will remain open until December 14th, 2018. If anyone has comments on the environmental assessment or the draft section 4F evaluation or any other natural, cultural, or socioeconomic resource concerns associated with the project, please bring them to our attention tonight or before the close of the comment period on December 14th. The environmental assessment and section 4F evaluation are available on the project website. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. This project will involve property acquisitions, so Steve Labonte will talk about the right-of-way process.
Thank you, Don. Members of the special committee, ladies and gentlemen, before I go into the right-of-way procedures for this project, there are a couple of things I'd like to address. First, as Councilor Valinsky has said, if anyone wishes to submit any additional testimony as a result of this hearing or in regard to these plans, you can address the material to the chairperson of the special committee and mail it to the address that is shown on the hearing handout map within 30 days of tonight's hearing, and it will become part of the official record. The hearing map that I'm talking about is this map here, and I believe they're available on the table outside. We also have with us tonight copies of a booklet entitled Public Projects in Your Property, which describes the right-of-way acquisition and relocation assistance procedures that are utilized by the state. This booklet is especially useful for those property owners affected by the proposed project. And again, these are also available from department staff or at the reading table outside. And that's this green booklet right here that I'm holding up. If after reviewing the information received at this hearing and the 30-day comment period, the special committee finds a necessity for this layout, several things will happen. First, with approval to proceed with the design of this project, the department will be preparing appraisals for each of the properties affected by the proposed construction you see on the plans. A staff appraiser from our department or a fee appraiser hired from private industry will contact each owner to appraise their property. The appraisals will reflect the fair market value of the property rights needed for the new construction. These appraisals are reviewed separately to see that all appraisals are accurate and have taken into account all applicable approaches to value. The value in the reviewed and finalized appraisal will be the offer of compensation used by the department as a basis for negotiations. A right-of-way agent from the department will visit each property owner and discuss each acquisition separately. This is an opportunity for owners to ask questions and bring up concerns. If the property owner is satisfied with the offer, deeds are prepared, ownership is transferred to the state, and compensation is provided to the property owner. If negotiations between the owner and the department fail, the matter will be filed with the New Hampshire Board of Tax and Land Appeals, where the owner will have opportunity to argue for additional compensation. It is important that you understand this can be done with or without an attorney. Either party can appeal the board's decision to the Superior Court if they are unsatisfied. Anytime after this hearing or before the design approval, all information in support of this hearing is available at the department's headquarters, which is this building, in Concord for your inspection and copying. There is relocation assistance available, and a right-of-way agent will be assigned as necessary. That's all I have done.
Thank you, Steve. Following the public hearing, a transcript will be prepared, and it will include all the testimony from this public hearing as well as any written testimony we receive in the 30-day comment period. The department will evaluate the complete testimony and make recommendations on resolution of issues to be addressed. These recommendations will be presented to the hearing special committee in a report called the Report of the Commissioner. If they feel we have appropriately addressed the issues, they will then vote on the necessity of the project. If the special committee finds in favor of the necessity and we gain environmental approval, then we can move into final design and start the right-of-way acquisition process. Estimated cost of the entire project is about $268 million, with construction estimated at $238 million. In the current 10-year plan, the project is a mix of turnpike and federal highway funds. The turnpike runs up through exit 14, as Gene had mentioned. So any of the I-93 work south of exit 14 and the interchanges can be turnpike funded. I-393 and I-93 north of exit 14, 99 would need to be federal funded. Turnpike funded portion, based on the current toll structure, is programmed in the Turnpike Capital Program from 2026 to 2031. The federal funded portion is more uncertain since the federal funds are more limited and must compete with other regional priorities in the 10-year plan process. The 10-year plan does show federal construction funds are available beginning in 2024. However, the entire build is not fully funded. We are developing a construction corridor plan to help determine what priorities can be completed with the funds currently available through 2028. Some of the early action will be to address the redless bridges in the area. Beyond that, the project delivery is very much depending on funding availability and will need to be addressed in future 10-year plan updates. As currently laid out, construction will span over at least an 8 to 10-year period. If we had all the funds we needed, we could shorten that up to a 5 to 7-year period. Info on all this is on our website, and people can get to that just by going to I-93 Concord. At this time, there are no city or town funds required for the project. However, as Gene noted, there are sidewalks proposed to be built in Bow and Concord, and these will need to be maintained by the municipalities once they're constructed. So we'll need an agreement with them. Without an agreement by the municipalities, we will not build the sidewalks. The only other thing is the full highway garage off of Stickney Ave is not impacted by this project, so we're not planning to do anything with those as part of this project. We are pursuing disposition of those through a separate project, and we'll be working with state agencies and the city as we work through that process. Chairman, that concludes the department's formal presentation of the Concord project. I respectfully ask this special committee to find in favor of the layout of the project as presented here this evening.
Thank you, Don. Before I open the hearing for comments, concerns, or questions, do we have any state elected officials with us this evening that would like to be heard? Seeing none, how about town and city elected officials? Mr. Askell? Well, you're not elected. That's cheating. Elected first?
I'll defer my time to Mr. Espel.
You as well.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councilor Walensky. My name is Harold Judd. I'm selected of the town of Bow. We will be submitting written comments, so I will keep my remarks this evening brief, but we do have many concerns. And I think starting with, this plan eliminates direct access from southbound 89 to Route 3A. It is designed, it appears to be designed to transfer traffic from an interstate system to local roads, encouraging traffic to get off at exit 1, turn left to a signalized intersection to a new signalized intersection where you turn right and then go down, take another left and another right to get onto 3A. It also appears that that design would actually encourage surface traffic to continue across George Street onto Grandview, which is a residential street, to get to 3A. That doesn't seem to be in keeping with the goal of minimizing impact on communities. Again, we'll further follow up with this in greater detail. We'll also note that the modeling that was done around Exit 1 does not include or recognize that we have designated that by vote of our town meeting to make that a TIF zone for future development. This exiting of commercial traffic into that zone is contrary to that goal, and we think that needs to be part of the modeling and be considered. In addition, I note from the presentation that 19 areas were studied for sound impact, but the only place that you found a need for impact abatement was, if I understand correctly, northbound on 93 by the technical college, which is a non-residential area. But we have southbound on 93, which is directly impacted both by the existing increase in traffic as well as this modeling, which will put higher traffic flows at higher speeds right next to our residential areas. We have a traffic noise impact study before showing that it is impacted, and we ask that that be reconsidered. In addition, the signalization is proposed to put 2 signals on a road that currently has none. And we're talking about a signal on a roadway which is an incline. In clement weather, that's an invitation for collisions at the bottom of our logging hill. In addition, if it is in keeping with what I understand to be DOT standards now, those lights operate 24/7. It's not like the good old days in Concord where at 7 p.m. the lights went to flashing. They'll be operating 24/7, which means we will have interruption of our traffic in and out of our town on a surface road to accommodate moving traffic off of an interstate to get to another interstate on a surface road. I question whether that makes a whole lot of sense and whether it is in keeping with the concept of minimizing impact on the community. Thank you for listening to my remarks. We will be following up in writing.
Thank you, Mr. Jett. Are there other elected town mayor?
Mr. Chair, we are having our city manager, Mr. Spell, represent all of our elected city council, so he can speak for 15 of us. Expedite your evening.
He's the first in the sign-up cards,
There you go.
but no other electeds first. Okay? Tom? No pressure.
That's what I told him to.
Good evening, my name is Thomas Spell, City Manager for the City of Concord. I'd like to thank the Special Committee for allowing me to comment tonight, allow the City of Concord to comment tonight. Again, as Mayor Boulay mentioned, I'm representing the city. This is the City of Concord's official position on this proposed project, as well as Senator Felty's official position on this project. I have written testimony tonight which is addressed to the Commissioner, Victoria Sheehan. So I'll provide that to you tonight, but I'll read that into the testimony. City of Concord wishes to thank the Commissioner and the entire New Hampshire Department of Transportation staff, as I-93 consultant McFarland Johnson, for affording the opportunity to provide input on this project over the last 2 years. We acknowledge that the New Hampshire Department of Transportation has worked to incorporate some of our concerns, such as providing pedestrian and cyclist amenities on Loudon Road, as part of their latest preferred alternative. However, we feel that this project, as presently contemplated, misses an opportunity to be truly transformative. Nowhere else on I-93 corridor through New Hampshire does the highway bisect a densely populated portion of the city as it does through Concord. While I-93 has been an asset from a vehicular transportation perspective. This also destroyed view corridors to the river and created a significant physical obstacle dividing our community in half. Transportation planners and community leaders throughout the country are recognizing the legacy of such highways, and residents are advocating for creative solutions that do more than increase vehicular capacity. Projects across the nation today are connecting neighborhoods that were once severed, are exposing long-buried rivers, and are allowing communities to more fully express their characters. We challenge the New Hampshire Department of Transportation to think more creatively with this project. Plans that the City commissioned several years ago articulated a vision for I-93 that include lowering the highway's profile to provide pedestrian access from our downtown to the river. While this may be ambitious, I genuinely believe that these alternatives that we should not fail to explore simply because we are uncertain as to whether the funding will be available. Or to remind the Commissioner and Special Committee, many believe that Concord's downtown will not always remain as it has been for decades. Yet today, thanks to the community support and a dedicated local effort to secure federal Tiger funding and state grant tax credits, we have a main street that not only is a complete street, but is the envy of many cities and towns in the country. Yet until we have access to the river from downtown Concord, the vision of our community remains incomplete. So, what is the city asking for? We want to work with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation to creatively come up with an I-93 plan that is ambitious yet possible. Let's figure out a way to make this more than simply a road project and use it to unify both halves of our community, to reconnect to our greatest local natural resource, and to continue to reinvigorate economic development. We should be seriously contemplating a variety of ideas, such as incorporating attractive pedestrian bridges that could link the project to the river and to a greater complete street urban road network. We realize this may be outside New Hampshire Department of Transportation's normal highway project scope, but we assert that this project, through the heart of Concord, is unique to the state's I-93 inventory. To accomplish this, the city will gladly collaborate with the Department of Transportation in our state and federal delegations, as well as the private sector, to seek more alternative funding sources. We don't believe that this needs to be a zero-sum effort for funding from an ambitious and creative project somehow secured at the cost of core needs. We contend that the Department of Transportation's vision should be the same as the city's, to make this corridor as thriving and as attractive as possible. There are first steps that can be taken now, in the short term. These include clearing the riverside brush along the I-93 corridor to open up to view corridors to the Merrimack, and removing the blighted and dilapidated state garage on Stickney Avenue, which are an abomination. New Hampshire Department of Transportation has given us assurances that both of these initiatives can be undertaken exclusive of the I-93 project. We urge the department to take the necessary steps to effectuate these steps within the next year. The city also pledges its support to working with the Commissioner and her team on a plan for the future of Stickney Avenue and the Store Street corridor. The city has a long and successful track record of redeveloping challenged properties and would be welcome the chance to acquire the state Stickney Avenue land to maximize tax-based growth in a manner that reflects our community's priorities. The Bow-Concord I-93 project is a truly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's leave a legacy we can be proud of, and rather than that is simply a roadway. Thank you for your attention. Sincerely, Thomas J. Spell, Jr., City Manager.
Thank you. Do you have copies of comments to turn in? I have a card from David Cedarholm, also on behalf of the city. This is not part of the 15 that Tom represented?
That is correct. Yes. Good evening. My name is David Cedarholm, and I'm here speaking tonight as the city engineer for the city of Concord. I'd like to first thank the special committee for facilitating this meeting and for this opportunity to provide comment. I'm here to speak in favor of the project. And would also like to commend New Hampshire DOT and McFarland Johnson for all their hard work and effort to accommodate all the various design requirements to weave the project through the city. An unfortunate element of the existing I-93 corridor, as City Manager Espel pointed out, is how the highway separates the city in two and divides downtown from access to the river. The proposed project will further this separation, and I would like to suggest a mitigation project to help alleviate this separation. An aspirational capital improvement project that the city has incorporated into the capital improvements plan is referred to as the Merrimack River Greenway Trail, which is proposed to connect Manchester Street from exit 13 all the way through up to exit 14 and across the Loudon Road Bridge through Store Street and all the way up to Bosquen. The city has put together a number of plans to move this Greenway Trail through the corridor. So I would like to suggest that the project include funding to help the city move this project forward to connect up one side of the river to the other and help provide multimodal access between exits 13 and 14 and access across the river and connect up our two halves of the city, and particularly with downtown and access to the river. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cedar. Matthew Taylor, for a vote.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Taylor. I'm the Community Development Director for the town of Bow. First of all, I want to thank DOT and McFarland Johnson. I know they've been hard at work at this project for many years. And partly why I do know that is because I remember meeting back a couple of years ago in this building here and reviewing some of the concept plans. And I know at that time, I had mentioned that our planning board was considering rezoning land near Exit 1 for mixed use, multifamily housing, and commercial development. That, in that zone district, was approved in February of 2017. It's known as the Bull Mills Mixed Use District, and it allows for much higher density housing, multifamily housing, than what's allowed in town now. And it also allows for the creation of a job center near Exit 1 I-89. The reason why I bring this up is because I since that initial meeting, I haven't seen any changes on any of these concepts. I know it's been whittled down, but there haven't been any changes. And I want to reiterate too on the zoning change, that was supported by 87% of the voters in the town of Bow, which is, I thought was pretty amazing, particularly coming out in support of higher density housing. So we've had a number of meetings, and I appreciate all the opportunities that have been given to the town to meet with DOT officials. And the most recent one that we had was back in June of this year. And that was followed up with an email to the project manager. And the only point that I really want to make is I received a letter from the project manager dated October 26, 2018. And the question that I had all along was, does this design take into account the rezoning that the town adopted almost 2 years ago? And the answer that I got in this letter is that it does not. And I do, as much as I appreciate everything that's been done here, I do think that is a disservice to the people of the state, because we only have one opportunity to get this right. And the zoning is significantly different than what it was modeled for. Previously, it was a 2-acre zoning, rural zoning, and now it's basically a zone district that would allow the town to build a downtown, which is something that Bow really doesn't have. So I guess with that said, I appreciate the opportunities to talk and discuss this. But I do really feel like the town of Bow's voice hasn't been heard in this, and I feel like the zone district that surrounds Exit 1 should be modeled to make sure that it's going to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. Stephen Keith.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Keith. I live in Pembroke, New Hampshire, up on Glasgow Hill. Most of my activity, going to work, coming from work, shopping, everything else is in Concord. So I live in a suburb, but mostly here in Concord. I travel to Nashua every single day, and I've been doing this for 9 years. And one thing I notice is that when the road changes widths, 2 lanes, 3 lanes, ramps coming in, ramps going off, in places it's almost like 4 lanes, that sometimes the traffic stops. I have to leave work at 5 minutes of 4. If I leave at 4, we will stop in North Nashua because the road changes from 4 lanes to 3 lanes and has a ramp coming on. And then we get up to Continental Boulevard and we stop again because the road is 3 lanes wide. It was made 3 lanes, but then it goes back to 2 lanes again. And my concern with this plan is that, and I will make a prediction, that you will have backups into Concord because where you end this project is too close to Concord. You don't have enough room to merge the traffic back in. I can see problems on weekends when it's skiing, holidays, lake traffic, and foliage traffic. And I wish that you could go like another half a mile or maybe a mile to let the traffic go from the 3 lanes that you're going to have back to the 2 lanes that you're going to have after that. And I would like you to consider that. And I would also ask, what is an auxiliary lane? That wasn't explained out. Thank you.
Is this working? Okay, there we go. Sorry. So an auxiliary lane is a lane that is added from an on-ramp. So as you come on, that instead of merging, you have your own lane, and then it will drop at the downstream exit ramp. So it's just between the entrance ramp and the exit ramp. And then instead of merging, you have your own lane where you can then enter the stream of traffic.
Okay. Althea Barton. Daniel Broussard of Concord. Donald Berube of Bow. Just say your name for us.
Sure. My name's Donald Berube, resident in Bow. I'm a business owner in Bow. I'm on the Business Development Commission, and I'm also on the Planning Board. I'm glad that we're trying to get something done because we have a terrible on-ramp. But some of the problems that I do see is the limited access, 289, or the direct access, I should say, from 89 to Route 3A. That is our business corridor. It's a great thing for me. It's a great thing for the businesses there when you're telling somebody where you are to be able to take 89 to the end. And it's going to be really losing that. And just reiterating some on what you've already heard here is the town of Bow is working hard on getting more commercial business. The town as a whole is definitely in favor of it. You know, we've rezoned, we have a new TIF district, and that not being taken in consideration of the plans is tough. You know, we're all going to pay for this, whether it's federal or state or wherever the money comes. It's still all our money, and let's spend it correctly and do this right and get the planning right and make sure that, you know, 10 years down the road after it's done, that, gee, we did great in all this business, but, you know, we got this major problem in getting access.
I just want to, you definitely see the project move forward, but want to see that it moves forward correctly and good for, 30 years or 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Mary Wilson of Concord.
I'm Mary Wilson, 10 Hank Street in Concord. As the council or selectman from Bow stated, there are more areas of noise issues than just that NHTI. Hague Street is a very small street, but my house is right there. And those trucks, when they downshift, it really rocks my house. So I am actually requesting, if you're not going to do a sound barrier there, to at least think about signage for the trucks not to downshift when they come off those off ramps. Because that really affects the residential area there.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. David Bilodeau. Would you just tell us which town you're from as well?
Hi. Yes, my name is David. I'm currently a resident of the city of Manchester, but I grew up here in Concord most of my life. And my work on a daily basis takes me through Bow and Concord. I work as a commercial motor vehicle operator in mass transportation, and I can say that I have racked up probably 600,000 miles of driving just within the last 5 years between my commercial work and my personal driving. So I have a lot of experience on the roads, watching how traffic behaves, and I just wanted to register some concerns and questions about design and operational considerations. First of all, I just wanted to thank Mr. McCarthy and the other members of the special committee for the work that they put into planning this meeting and addressing the concerns of the public, as well as the manager of the city of Concord and the selectmen of the town of Bow. I have a couple of specific things that just kind of popped out at me as I was examining some of the plans for the work that's being proposed, and my questions concern the most expensive portions of this project as indicated in the cost matrix that was presented earlier. The plans for the I-89 exit 1 interchange as well as the 93 exit 15 interchange. And my concerns are that in general, I feel like there's a lot of bridges in this design plan. Bridges are pretty expensive, usually. I also studied civil engineering at Auburn University, and I have engineering as a civil engineering student with a heavy civil contractor based in California. So I've had a fair amount of experience hands-on working on these job sites, working with engineering staff, and as a motorist traveling in and out both on highways and surface roads. I would just ask that the plans be looked at and considered for the removal of unnecessary bridges. If you're looking at the exit, the exit 15 interchange over here, there is currently one bridge, and we're now proposing 4 additional bridges. I think, in my experience, I've done a lot of traveling through the state of Massachusetts. Massachusetts DOT, obviously they have major highways in through there, I-95, I-93, Route 3, and then very specific intersections, which I've traveled through very frequently. And in a number of places, especially along 495, they've had small projects which have made tremendous improvement just by making simple adjustments, either by building out a half a lane to extend either the entry onto a highway or the exit off of a highway to alleviate stacking or weaving considerations in different exit points or entry points. actually go a long ways. There are places in Massachusetts I can think of, especially the I-93, I-95 interchange, where pavement markings would be substantially beneficial in terms of directing traffic through difficult to navigate areas of interstate roadway. I'm not sure how exactly that plays into the plan that specifically being proposed, but I guess my thoughts are that there are simpler ways of designing some of these interchanges, and specifically the ramps. I also want to mention the ramp at I-89 exit 1, the new proposed entry from I-89 south onto 93 south. There's 2 bridges that are being proposed, crossing over the original, or what will become the new entry onto I-93 south from South Street at that intersection. I don't see why that ramp can't be pushed northward directionally as you look at the proposed drawings, so that that road parallels the other road that turns you, puts you further down towards 3A. I don't know, without looking at the map, it's difficult to point this out in my mind here, but and again, these concerns just go to, if we can eliminate, bridges from this project, if we can extend entry ramps and extend exit ramps in such a way, that money, that cost savings, I mean, if it's not direct, that money can be put into other projects, commercial development, or other projects for the city of Concord or the town of Bow. There's a lot of people here who are concerned about possible misdevelopment opportunities, and I just, as a constituent, I'd like to see us, as the state of New Hampshire, save money and make the best decision possible with the money we collect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Villanelle. Robert Baker. Say what town you're from.
Yes. Good evening. I'm from Concord. Thank you to the special counsel for giving me this opportunity to give some insight. I am a transportation cyclist. I ride my bicycle every day. I rode my bike here today. I'm not sure anybody else did. I've missed 2 days this year riding a bike. So I have interfaced with traffic systems like this proposal for my lifetime, I think. And connections are very important. What I don't see in this proposal is enough connectivity for those of us who may want to get across this infrastructure without a motor vehicle. I was delighted to hear that the city manager of Concord is interested in more pedestrian and bicycle access. That's a good thing. I think that the issue is it comes down to the details. At exit 12, there is a proposal to put in sidewalks and bicycle lanes. Well, what's the detail there? How do we really interface with that? Now, the city manager mentioned that the city of Concord built a complete street downtown, and I would argue that it is not a complete street because the devil is in the detail. As a cyclist, that's still a dangerous place. So as you think about how the infrastructure is interfaced with non-motor vehicles, how safe is that really going to be, and do we have enough connections to get across that river? It's a dangerous place to be out there on a bicycle these days. I like the idea that there's a proposed separated bicycle and pedestrian access under Loudon Road, but there's no mention of that down at exit 12, no mention at exit 14. And what about the opportunities to get pedestrians or bicyclists across this interstate in other places, perhaps bridges, perhaps underpasses? So if we're going to spend $270 million over several years, and we're not going to give the connectivity to people in the future, what are we doing here? Are we making a big mistake? In the 1950s and 60s, when this originally was built, the freeway, They weren't thinking about me riding a bicycle every day trying to get through the city. Well, here we are, we're in 2018 now. Are we going to be thinking about how people access across freeways or not? Are we going to build for the car? Obviously, that's what we do. But I think the future is people using other modes of transportation. And if we can build better infrastructure so that it is attractive, that it is safe, and it provides them choice to get out of their motor vehicle, I think we're going to have a better system. And I think this design doesn't get us there. I would ask the engineering to go back and look at what are the best practices. Where could we make better choices about how we get people across this? Because that money is mine too, as a taxpayer. So if I choose not to drive a car and you don't provide me access, then it's a very difficult thing, and I just don't see enough in this. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Laura Hartz.
Yes, thank you. My name is Laura Hartz. I'm from the law firm of Orr & Reno in downtown Concord. And I just have two questions, really. They're about exit 14 and the preferred alternative F2. So with the elimination of the northbound on-ramp to I-93, I'm wondering if there was any accounting for the increased traffic that will go along Fort Eddy Road and possibly the impacts along the businesses there on Fort Eddy Road. That's my first question. And then my second question, similarly, there was some talk about an accommodation for the traffic along Stickney Road that could accommodate for downtown going northbound. But I'm curious about the traffic that would go northbound from where we are here, so state offices and then other businesses along Loudon Road. Thank you.
Thank you. If you can do it briefly, otherwise we can address it in the reporting.
I'm going to try to go back to a graphic. So I think the question is really about what happens when the exit 14 northbound ramp is eliminated. So I think the first question was about traffic on Fort Eddy Road. The expectation is that the traffic that is currently going to Loudon Road to use that ramp to go north will just go the opposite direction on Fort Eddy Road, go down to exit 1, get on 393, and then they could head north on 93 that direction. The question about traffic volumes, the combination of the extension of Store Street here and the proposed connection of Stickney to the north will definitely provide a means for the traffic in this area to access the 393 extension here, and then they can head north on 93 that way. So that is how we expect the traffic to divert once that ramp is closed.
Thank you. Anthony Foote.
Good evening, Anthony Foote, 3 Logging Hill Road in Bow. Don, Gene, thank you. It's what, the 3rd or 4th time we've been together. I don't know if, Gene, you could put the Bow exit 1, it might help a little bit on this. I only have 5 points to talk about tonight. Some of it's going to reiterate what Harry Judd said earlier and what Matt Taylor talked about. I think Matt, you're still here. Excellent comments, and I was actually glad to hear some of the things they were saying. Jennifer, you were talking about historic sites earlier. You mentioned too the Upton House and the Moore's Garage as the 2 historic sites. Ray and his wife left pretty much the historic committee for Bow. Is there a mention of the Bow Mills, that Amy White, the area's Bow Mills? There's 2 mill sites right there. Have those been addressed or discussed?
Yeah, those have not been, I'm sorry, I can't really hear myself. Those have not been deemed as eligible for the National Register.
So there are going to be
They're they're not evaluated as part of this project. That's a decision by New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources.
Even though the town, or, so all areas named at Bull Mills for those two sites?
We'd have to get back to you on the details of those properties, but they're not part of this evaluation.
Okay, maybe we could include those possibly. I don't know. All right. My second point was the off-ramp traffic, which Harry mentioned, going from, he called interstate to local roads. And, Gene, you know where my house is? Through the traffic light? I'm the guy right there to the left of the yellow. I'm pretty much there, and I own both sides, and then Linda Colby's the island, and I've been there for 50 years, so I'm kind of very intimately involved with what's going to happen here at the intersection. And I was wondering, as Harry mentioned, the interstate to local roads, being that my house is right there at the traffic light, is there a study or is there any input on the volume of increase for that because of the rerouting, not being able to go direct to 3A? Has there been a study on the impact? Am I going to see 500 now cars, or can I get some numbers at some point?
We can get back to you on that, but I'd have to break out reports, but we do have those numbers.
So I'd be curious to see that. All right, thank you. And I did you mentioned, and I'm not sure if it was our folks, but being a resident there, they were that traffic light. If anybody's been on Rocky Hill Road, it was on Friday. Wait till you stop at a traffic light there and try to make it up the hill. I just want to make a note that that's probably not a good idea in that area. It will cause probably more accidents, and we might want to relook stopping people there. Matt mentioned about the commercial. I just wanted to reiterate that because I know we talked with the town, being someone who lives in that area, and I don't know if Mr. Colby's here today. I didn't see him, but he owns the land across the street, and we discussed, over the years, there's been a couple of proposals, and I think that, as Matt said, it's the one opportunity to get things right. I think it was, is that one opportunity? So, Bow doesn't really have a commercial area, and I think there's potential there, and that this plan at this point really doesn't utilize the possible potential that is there. Timeline. Obviously, intimately curious with that since I'm living there. And you mentioned, Don, that we were talking 10-year plan, 2024, 2028, because a personal guy is going to start hearing the pounding and the drills and all that. Is there a start date? Not a specific start date. Like I said, we are looking at a priority corridor plan to see where we should put the additional funding that's available. A lot of it will go into the Red Dust Bridge. It's at 393. Then we'll start looking at where we can get sort of the best improvement for the money. So is there some point you're going to allow the local residents? I think 1A, or exit 1, would you agree that's the most challenging intersection of this whole project? Definitely is challenging. We have looked at breaking out one of those ramps, possibly as a separate project. So if you could, I'd really like to, for me, my life planning, know where we're going to have a breaking ground event. If we could get that, that would be awesome. And the last one, well, that's the time of that timeline. And I know you mentioned, I'm not sure the gentleman, sir, right away. Is there, Steve, is there a plan for maybe getting myself, the Swensons, the Colbys, the Blevins, and the Loses that own the property together on a side meeting where we could discuss close to homeland, some of the options as a group, and we can talk together, or are you going to specifically do it individually?
Well, what will happen is, as the project progresses and the design progresses, a right-of-way agent will contact each impacted property owner specifically and determine what type of relocation assistance that are available to them. So for somebody who has, who has a property that has a complete acquisition, they'll be more hands-on than, somebody who we're acquiring a construction easement, a temporary construction easement for.
Is there a chance we could put together a group meeting for those property owners initially to kind of go on?
I'm wondering if a lot of these very individual questions might be best put to the group individually.
Okay, and I can do that. I'll just let it talk. The last point, my last point, the first one was, I've asked a couple times to see a third dimension. I mean, I'm visual, I just like to look at things, and I know there's some rough CAD winger engineers, I'm not sure the name, gentleman's name, Scott, I think. there's some rough CAD programs that are out there on what's going on right now. I really, for a guy who's going to be living across the street, be able to sit in if you could do the three-dimensional rendering and then be able to sit there and maybe look at this project before we execute. Because I built a couple houses myself as a homeowner. On my laptop at home, I built my entire house and walked through it. I think to see that before you break ground and spend money and get people's opinion to see, is that going to be visually aesthetic, is going to be appealing to the kind of the local residents, would be an excellent tool for us to kind of move forward to get an idea before we invest in taxpayer dollars. And again, Don, Gene, just in a positive note, I think you guys have done a wonderful job. From Manchester Street North, I go that exit every day, and I wish somebody would put a light there to turn right, because it would stop that whole back up on I-93. You guys have nailed it on Manchester Street, and then the 393 looks awesome. I think it's a good, very good plan going on. And I appreciate the time and effort you put into this, and I thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Foote. David Erickson of Ware.
Yes, I am David Erickson of Ware, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. I was late tonight because of the traffic coming up Route 93. I was on a bus. I was riding a bus because I prefer not to be sitting in that traffic. The bus took 54 minutes longer coming up because it left at 3:30 than it would have if it had left at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The traffic is slow. And that was through the 4 and even 5 lane section of 93. That widening of 93 has not solved the traffic problem coming north in the evening or going south in the morning. I don't think that widening 93 is going to solve our traffic problems here either. I also think that by the completion date you're projecting of 2033, I think we're going to be using very different vehicles than we have today. It could be that they're just electric, they're probably self-driving, and I suspect that throughout the country there will be many more cities that totally ban individual vehicles coming in and out of the city, as New York is beginning to do, as major cities in Europe are already doing. I think we have to try to guess. It's hard to guess, but I think we do have to try to look ahead at what will be happening in these coming 20 years. And I wish we could spend the planning time and the resources to build public transportation between Concord and Boston rather than widening a asphalt road, which I think will be looked back on as obsolete by 2033. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Are there other people who have not filled out a green card that would like to speak to make points that are not repetitive of what has already been said? So if there are, the gentleman right under the exit sign, yes, that's you. Just sign in at the lectern there.
Yep.
And tell us what your name is and what town you're from.
My name is John McKenna. I'm from Litchfield, but I operate a business in Concord that's affected by the project.
Okay.
So I'm the Vice President of Operations at New England Motor Freight. Our Concord facility, which happens to be my home office when I'm out on the road, has a lake proposed in the parking lot that would greatly affect our ability to use it, the property any longer. It's a crossdock operation. We use 53-foot trailers, which require us to have about 125, 130 feet to get in and out of our property. And the way that the current water runoff pond is designed, we would lose a great portion of our parking and 8 to 10 doors on the back side of the building, the side of the building that faces 93. We would likely be forced to relocate the terminal if that were to be built, because we just couldn't operate the business there. We have over 60 employees that work in the building. All 60 employees are New Hampshire residents. We would not like to relocate the property. It's geographically well situated for us in the way we run our business, with servicing Vermont and New Hampshire out of that location. But we really need some relief on this proposal for the water that's supposed to, really impact our business in a negative fashion. So I'd like that to be considered. We are also entering some letters of concern as well to the committee. So thank you for your time.
Do you have the letters with you?
We do.
Okay, you can hand them up to the front table. Thank you for your comments. The gentleman in the black. And then orange jacket. And then here in the front.
Yes, my name is Roy Schweiker from Concord, and I guess I've been, attending all the meetings of this thing and sending in comments and so forth. And, they said all the people I've consulted with and talked to, but they basically just seem to ignore them. The same things keep coming out rather than ever any changes occurring. So I'll tell the committee once again some of these things. Number one, I think several of the interchanges, I'll name the one in Bow, the exit 12 and exit 15, are very complicated. That number one makes them expensive, which has been said. Number two, it makes it harder for drivers to try and figure out how to get through one of these things, which is something that hasn't been said. And, there's more older people around who, know how things are, and you'll just be terribly confused. And the third thing is instead of trying to improve what's there, going to entirely new concepts in some of these, it's going to be very awkward and expensive to construct them. The traffic's going to have to be detoured during construction, so it's going to be a disaster trying to build this thing, even if they manage to do it. So the second thing I have to say is that environmental justice, I kind of whisked over that. Well, I think that it would be generally thought that people who use bicycles and walk probably are from lower socioeconomic classes, and they're the people that economic justice is about. It's been suggested that we put more crossovers, like a crossover for pedestrians and bikes near exit 15. There's room to do it. One from the north end of Teardrop Park across. That would also serve wildlife. These things are just completely ignored. And so my feeling is if I had to make a choice and I was on the committee and I had to choose between this plan as proposed and a no bill, I'd say no bill. This thing just is, nobody likes it. It's not the best solution. You need to not build this. Maybe get a different engineer or listen to people that redesign the thing. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman in the orange.
Hello, my name is Tim Dunn from Concord, New Hampshire, and I just had a quick question. I don't think it was presented during the presentation. Is the pedestrian tunnel that connects NHTI to Fort Eddie Road, is that going to be continued in the proposed plan? Yes, it is. All right, thank you.
And you can sign in. Perfect. This gentleman right here in the second row. Yeah, go ahead. And then, do you want to speak as well?
Yeah, I filled one of the cards out, but I believe it might have been called while I wasn't present.
Oh, you're out of luck. Just let him speak and then you're next. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bill Rogers. I live in Bow. I'm also a former assistant commissioner for the Department of Transportation in 2001, 2003, and a former 13-year member of the Bow Planning Board. So I have great interest in this particular project. Don mentioned we're going to look at prioritizing the contracts. That is excellent. I hope that the special committee will go ahead and assign instructions so that the real problem areas of 93, 89 at exit 1 and exit 15 are addressed early on as opposed to exits 12 and 13, which can stand for a little while before we go back and fix them in their permanent condition. This was brought up before I started with Selectman Judd about the issue of 89 and to and from the Route 3A Hall Street intersection. We've been training people for 60 years that that's how you go to get to those locations, and that's how they've developed. That's where the trucks all go. And now, with this plan, we put them in two options, either use exit 12, they're using signage, of course, or use the town roads like Logan Hill, as has been explained, to go through the signalized intersections to get there, and I think that's probably not the right way to go in this solution. And there is a solution to that particular situation, and that is to build more bridges. I hope the fellow that didn't like bridges didn't hear that, but we need more bridges and to provide a flyover that goes from I-93 north to I-89 north. The DOT did drop that concept for me at one of the meetings, or after one of the meetings we went to, and they said it works, but it's expensive. Well, I think I knew that part already, but this is an interstate interchange. There aren't many in New Hampshire. They need to be treated with the proper amount of respect because they're very important. They're going to be there for a long time. We probably aren't going to be able to fix them in the distance that we can see in the future. So this is the time to do it. And also, if you did the flyover solution, a lot of the stuff that's in the plan now could be taken out that would be necessary to be credit towards the extra cost of the flyover. So to me, that is something that really needs to be looked at again and compare the benefits of it as opposed to taking out the connection that's been there for so long with everybody doing that. It's been working pretty good. But I don't think we want to have too many trucks using the roundabouts on exit 12. We can avoid it. They certainly can handle it, but if we have a lot of them, it tends to bog them down, and that's a design and operational issue that we should try to avoid. And it is one of the benefits, as mentioned earlier, that up to exit 14, it's on the turnpike system. So at some point in time, if we look seriously at a toll increase, to make sure they have the money to go ahead and complete this even earlier, as Dawn said, maybe 5 to 7 years if all the funding was in place. I think that's a real possibility. We've done it in other locations in the state for temporary toll increases if necessary to make sure we get this done and not turn into another 93 from Salem to Manchester. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comments. Where'd you go? Yep. Okay, so the gentleman who missed his name the first time, come on up. You can sign in after you speak. Go right ahead and start talking. Yeah, no, don't leave us. Yeah, go right ahead.
See, I had the benefit of not having been around for anyone else's presentation, so I don't know if anything I'm going to say is redundant up front. I apologize for that. I've been a lifelong resident of Concord, and this project affects me directly. My ancestry is from Bow, so it affects where I come from and the future, where I'm going. Some of the first issues that I have with this project come from adjustments to the system in Bow. I would ask strongly, why is that trail to be abandoned? Why are we demolishing a historic home in New Hampshire? Why are we building across the Turkey River? And is that because of the loss of environmental protections under our current federal administration? My knee-jerk reaction to this 3-lane project was so more people from Massachusetts can come flying through Concord, not stop, not get pulled over. I don't know how many times I've driven on 93 and had people with Massachusetts license plates flying 75 miles per hour in a 55 zone and no one pulls them over.
Okay,
What is happening to our Department of Transportation? Protect us, please, sir. Why are you trying to stop me? Do I not have an open forum right now?
Just calm down. You can keep talking. Just take it easy. We'll hear you out. But try and stick to the issues that are before us tonight. It's okay.
Is the mic mine or yours? Sorry.
There's a matter of decorum that we both have to be. So just go ahead.
Expressing myself. Both of the stoplights proposed for Bow for Logging Hill Road, I feel like from someone who does not drive on the road and who does not understand the consequences of what they would be doing if they forced people to come to a full stop in the wintertime on Walking Hill Road coming from Bow into Concord. You might kill people, cause a massive backup of cars. People in Bow drive 45 miles an hour down that road. And you expect them to come to a full stop not once but twice, potentially? And that, you don't think that's going to, with ice on the roads? I mean, maybe you can come up with some sort of balance by which you maintain them so well, but I feel like you're talking about astronomically difficult to fathom concepts here. And that's just in Bow. Okay? I live in the south end of Concord, not too far from the border, and the exit at 12 directly affects me. Anytime that I'm using 93 to come from downtown Concord towards southbound and take the local exit to my house, I will now have to go what appears to be maybe like a quarter mile out of the way, then take a traffic circle just to do what the engineering of the highway already does at 55 miles per hour and slows me down and lets me take a right-hand turn off of the highway. This project seems to be overcomplicated so that someone can line their pockets in construction money at the expense of our residents' time and money. That move on 12, I told my father I would sue when I looked at the design for it. The proposal to take 3 lanes in the curvature that crosses Basin fills me with fear as a young person who grew up here. I cannot imagine there being 3 lanes trying to take that left at speed in the wintertime. We already only plow 1 lane most of the time on the highway. Why are you proposing 3 lanes? Is it so more Massachusetts people can fly through Concord at 75 miles per hour and not stop? Completely disregard us?
We've done that already. Go ahead, next point.
I would ask that anyone responsible for this project, please bring it back before the public with statements about what you will be doing to the adjustment of the speed limits. Because that's not present for any of these models. I can't tell what they would be. Does this not come along with a change in the speed limit? And should that not be brought forward? I mean, lastly, as far as structural design goes, although I do like the division while coming southbound to interface with 393, I think splitting that up and ceasing that point where the entrance and the exit ramp are right at each other is great in concept. In execution, what you are doing is, again, encouraging people to drive unsafely rather than what the roadway does right now, which is encourages you to drive safely. If you're driving 55 miles per hour, that entrance and exit is not difficult to navigate. People who constantly break the law with their automobiles and are not having the law enforced by this Department of Transportation are the kind of people who would be responsible for a plan like this. As a student of NHTI, I drove from the south end of Concord and used the exit at, what is it, my number? Well, to access 393 and then take the exit to NHTI there. And the new model makes the line that you can draw very straight and narrow. But the curvature that existed there was to slow cars down to 55 miles per hour before they entered into 393. And again, I think this model has examples of places where the architectural design has not taken topography into example, nor the driving patterns of local people. And although I don't disagree with every move here, I would just say in closing that I think there are a lot of roadways in the state that need more attention.
Okay, thank you. I think there's a gentleman sitting against the wall. Is there anyone else? Okay. So you're closer. You go next. And then the gentleman walking up from the back. And then I think we'll be in a minute.
My name is Ken Blevins. I live at 2 Valley Road in Bow. My house is definitely impacted by this. I'm glad I came tonight because I didn't realize that there was any medication mitigation to me, not medication, mitigation to me in this project, and I found that out tonight, so thank you for letting me know that. At any rate, the point that I'd like to make, is there a pointer that I can use to?
Well, I can point.
Okay, we're talking about Valley Road,
That's you right there.
and we're talking about the exits from Valley Road. And I feel that if the...
Microphones are up in here.
If you could back up just a little bit, yeah, perfect.
If the exit from 89 to 93 could be moved further north, and where the overpass is for the entrance from Bow onto 89 was made an underpass, okay? So the exit coming off of 89 would be an underpass. It would keep the grades down. It would also, I believe, just looking at the topography up there, that there wouldn't have to be a great change on where it crosses South Street. And it would certainly be a lot more appealing for my home on Two Valley Road if it was lower rather than higher. The other issue is where the entrance from Bow to 89 is, where you said, I guess it's the wiggle room where you come on to 89. One way you could eliminate that, or eliminate a big portion of it, is to split the entrance to 89. So if people from Bow wanted to go to 93, they could go right onto the same exit coming off of 89 on this side. And if they wanted to go 93 north, you could have another one to actually merge into 89. I just think that would be a better situation there all around.
Yeah, if you could briefly.
Yes, quickly. Well, we actually have met with Mr. Boylan, so this isn't the first time I've heard his ideas. So we did look at it.
Oh, okay.
So his notion of what we have at this location where I'm pointing is that the new connector is over the top of the entrance ramp from exit 1. His notion is to flip that and have the connector go low and have the ramp from Logging Hill go over the top. We did look at it.
Yeah, it would also move that further north.
Understood.
Which would take more room in front of my home.
So the notion of switching this, it just doesn't work. This ramp, there's just not enough length on this ramp to overcome that grade differential. So we did look at it. It just, physically, it cannot happen.
Was there a cut on the exit from 89 where you looked at it, or did you just look at it where it is presently?
No, I mean, we looked at it in a couple different locations. Your second idea of just trying to shift the ramp as proposed further to the north, we definitely think there's some potential there. And as we've said, we certainly will look at that as we get closer into final design to move that ramp as far away from your property as we can. So we definitely feel there's potential there.
That's why I'm here. I'd like to get us as far away from my property.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blevins.
By the way, on the trucks coming down there, you really have to get some signage up there or something. The people I talked to said that it's an interstate highway and the state can't sign it to stop them from jailbreaking the big trailers coming down. So if you could get some signage up there, even if you have to go to the legislature and pass a law to put a fine on them doing that, I mean, it is critical to the area. It's awful loud, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning when somebody doesn't know where they're going, stop and the truck comes down behind them and they lock up the brakes. It's critical.
Thank you. Gentleman up at the school.
Hello, my name is Robert Walker. I'm here to comment on behalf of Concord Terminal LLC, the owner of 118 Hall Street. Mr. McKenna of New England Motor Freight previously commented on the impacts of the potential stormwater pond shown on the property. Won't rehash everything he said. Obviously, we have the same concerns as the property owner. The one thing he didn't mention though, on the plan, it shows an empty parking lot where the pond's going. Aerial photograph is obviously taken during the daytime. At nighttime, that parking lot is completely full of equipment of theirs. Without that parking, the facility, as he said, is not really usable, and also it cuts off some of the doors. On top of that, I wanted to mention that the building is a cross-dock terminal, as John mentioned, which is a very use-specific design. So not only would it not work for the motor freight, but for any future tenants of ours also, same impacts. It just is not usable as a truck terminal. That's all I have.
Would you mind just signing in on
Sure.
the sheet there, and then the gentleman in the brown sweater, come on out. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Max Nagel. I live on Grandview in Bow. My question is whether or not there's been an assessment of what property values will look like as the highway or the ramps coming from 89 South and the 93 South moves closer. So I live in this kind of a pocket right up here, and I want to know what the potentially adverse effects of property values in that area will look like.
We didn't know, we didn't analyze any of the impacts.
Yeah.
Any kind of market impact on that, no.
Is that something that's going to be done?
We will do appraisals, something that we typically don't do. So we appraise the properties where we'll be that are impacted by the project.
But even those that might potentially not, how do you go about understanding, like, so say you're obviously I'm a homeowner on Grandview, and now my property value will presumably be dropped for something that's out of my reach, and I probably won't be compensated by the state or anybody.
Well, if your property's not being...
The highway is more or less, it's going to be coming to my backyard. I don't know if I'm going to be within the right-of-way access or what, but for folks in that area, I just want to know.
Well, if you're going to be within it, if your property will be within the right of way, you'll be compensated.
Okay, I understand that. But if it's not, that's really where I think myself, I'm sure my neighbors probably feel the same ways, even if we're technically out of the bounds of what's going to be considered right-of-way access or not, and what eventually becomes of your home if all of a sudden you're stuck with something that's of lesser value than what it should be just because there's a highway closer to your house now. I don't know what the right-of-way accesses are currently, or what they're going to be. I don't know, like I said, if my property is going to be a part of that, but I just want to know at some point whether or not that's going to adversely impact the value of my home.
And that's not something I can answer.
Okay, well, I was asking that, and if you're going to spend money, taxpayer money, I would hope that you would respect the taxpayer's property in that way.
You putting your name down, good.